Hey, hello. Super happy to be here at the Global Azure Sevilla 2025 for being accepted to be speaking to you and more especially for you being here accepted to be on this session. Hopefully you like it. My name is Anderson Oliveira, a founder of Zephyr Globe Consulting specialized in FinOps. And today I want to be talking with you about applying FinOps framework for better Azure cost management. In today's session, I want to talk to you about a few things. First, what is FinOps, the FinOps framework, FinOps principles, the Azure service that support FinOps, how does FinOps, or who does FinOps actually, sorry, and where to find more information if you're interested in knowing a little bit more about FinOps. So without further ado, let's talk a little bit about why FinOps, okay? So cloud is critical for every business, but it's a fundamentally different cloud consumption or consumption model. Let me go back a little bit on my experience maybe 20 years ago. It's not that much if we think, but in that time I was working in project management doing installation of data centers. So in that time, we need to do all of the procurement work, purchasing the equipment. Sometimes we need to build the building. Then we need to do the cooling, the roofing, the floor, the cabling, all that good stuff. I was managing those projects, and it were very interesting times. And everything that was in there could be used by the organization and it was to be used just what is in there. The developers were not very much involved in this process, but they are just made aware of what was available and that they could be using. And if some additional capacity was needed, this needed to be purchased. It's going to take maybe 30 days or 60 days until the equipment comes, and then you install it and do all the due diligence. But with cloud, all of this has been completely changed. Now the purchase is completely decentralized. Instead of having a procurement team purchasing equipment, every developer on your organization, every engineer that has access to create resources are actually doing purchases. The things has become very granular now instead of having a few people doing big purchases. It's variable. Variable cloud spend replacing data centers, fixed cost spend, including numerous ways of optimize rates. And that's right. So every resource that we deploy in the cloud has its price and it's variable because we pay for what we use. Sounds a little bit obvious, but actually this is a revolution that will make companies or that make will make companies work completely different now. And last but not least, scalable. At your fingertips, you have ability to scale your infrastructure in ways that were not imaginable maybe 10, 20 years ago. As I said, you need to purchase a new computer. You need to increase the capability of your network, do cabling wherever is necessary in order to increase the capacity or the computing power of your data center. But now, if you want to scale up or scale horizontally, you can. It's up there. Of course, there is the limitation of the data center where the resources reside today on the cloud. But you know what I mean, right? The sensation is that we have that unlimited. And this is a big change, again, a big change. And we can do that for a fraction of installation of a data center itself. So it's clear that we need something different, a different model for companies to operate. And that's where FinOps comes to play. FinOps is an operational framework and a cultural practice which maximizes the business value of cloud and technology enables timely data-driven decision making, creates financial accountability through collaboration between engineering, finance, and business teams. Collaboration is really key because costs are variable, areas need to talk to each other. They are not allowed to work in isolation anymore with the expense of not using very well the investments that you're doing on the cloud. And now, because the cost is variable, we need to make this having the business in mind. Does the investment I'm doing in cloud producing the expected outcome? That should be the question, not only from the big management or the senior leaders, but now it needs to go down into the engineering department. Cost now needs to be seen as another metric, just like performance, just like reliability, just like security. Cost is now coming to play because differences on the requirements in reliability, security, or performance will have a direct impact on cost. And if it's going to be a direct impact on cost, you rather be aligned with the senior management, and senior management should be aligned with finance and vice versa, so that you can comply with the budget established for that period. Do you see? Things are now much more interconnected with different areas that are not necessarily your end user. So that's why FinOps comes to play, and it's becoming a big thing. This is the FinOps framework. Don't get too much hooked on that because this looks very busy, and I know I will not go through each one of those boxes, but I put it in here just to show you that this has grown a lot. FinOps is not a something that is there for a long time. Just so you have an idea, FinOps started in the end of 2019, 2020 as a discipline established by that, like so. And since then, it's growing, right? And it's growing a lot. This one here that you see on the screen was the latest and greatest update on the framework, now including many different things that were not present on the first version that I had the pleasure to witness. So, and it will continue transforming. Everyone is invited to collaborate. You will find more information at the end where I will share some resources where where we will be able to engage and provide your input. Be you an architect, an engineer, or a senior management or engineering manager, everybody is now part of FinOps because FinOps serves to be, as it shows here, the middleman between business strategy and technology strategy. All right. But I want to talk with you a little bit more, deep dive a little bit in the principles and why I think principles are important. When I had a chance to lead the implementation of FinOps in a company a few years ago, uh, I was also lost with this on this framework. But what really helped me was were the principles, because when the principles are we can see this as the end goal, where we what the result that we want to achieve. At the same time, shows the way that we do things. All right. So if we look to the situation that we have right now and it differs from the principles, this means that we have a gap. And if we have a gap, we have work to do in order to fill that gap. And that's what make us think on the things that we need to be done in order to have the full-blown FinOps implementation anywhere. So let's talk about the principles. I will talk which one of them, what are them, why they're necessary, and what are the Microsoft/Azure resources that help us accomplishing those principles. So let's get started. All right, I will start making a combo of two principles. The first one is team needs to collaborate, and the second, centralized team drives FinOps. So what they mean, team needs to collaborate. As we were talking in discussion before, collaboration is key for all of that. Finance needs to collaborate with engineering, that needs to collaborate with the senior leaders, procurement, everybody. And we have a new person here that is called the FinOps practitioner, which is then the centralized team. There is a centralized team in FinOps that drives everything. Think like many companies have a security, everybody is doing security, but there is a team that is specialized on that, that drives the guidelines, the processes, the trainings. And here in FinOps is no different. We should have a centralized team that is very specialized on FinOps because they need to make the bridge talk. They need to talk the finance language, but they also need to talk the engineering language. All right, so this is what they mean and why they matter, because collaboration improves the way teams work together and solve problems. This leads to more efficient processes, increased success, and improved communication. Without collaboration, decisions are based on partial data. We need to eliminate silos because collaboration drives faster adoption and innovation. And this is really it. Innovation is what we're looking for, more revenue, business results. What are the MS solutions that drives this? I will talk about a few of them. They will repeat on the next slides. So I will spend a little bit more in here so we can speed up on the next, okay? All right, the first one, Microsoft Cost Management. Indubitably one of the most important one. This is your pane of glass where you can take a look on the cost and analyze, then do the management. Through the cost management, you can put budgets where there are cost limits that allows you, that gives you alerts, and alerts is another thing that you can do there. It will let you know when you go beyond the cost limits. So this is great as well. You can do many sorts of an analysis in there, analyze by many metadata or many fields like meta category, meta subcategory, subscription, resource group. Oh, I like to do that by tags. You can select the tags and then it will do the cost breakdown by the tags that you have. So it's pretty cool, pretty powerful, pretty performant as well. Cost management is absolutely important to have something like that. As a centralized team, you need as well to educate your those that are would benefit, like finance, senior leaders, to go there and check. The good things that you can save the URL of that specific report or specific set of filters so that they can open that by themselves regularly and see the cost in a more concise manner. Azure policy, hopefully this is your friend, right? I know that this one is very important and probably close to the heart of the people from governance. The policy in the cost perspective, you can enforce things like tagging, tag inheritance. You can also set up in policy. One thing that I really recommend you to do, have a conversation with the architectural area of your company and set up what are the boundaries, so you can avoid people to deploy very expensive resources. So you are have the limitation of doing that, and many other things. I know that many people that are watching this know policies much better than I do. but make sure that those are in there. I like policies because they set up the boundaries. Okay, so whoever go into Azure and feels like, okay, I have everything in my hands and I don't know exactly what to do. If I choose anything that is wrong, so policy helps you avoid some of those mistakes. Power BI. Power BI is one of the greatest data visualization tools out there. It's free to download for Windows, and you can access the web version on Mac. There is a subscription model if you want to share a report within your organization. The free version that you can run on your desktop is still very powerful. You can do many types of visualizations and analysis in there, make it look pretty so you can share that with your stakeholders. I really recommend using that. Microsoft Teams, maybe you are surprised to be here, but one of the things that I like about FinOps is that this framework encompasses culture in its nature. Culture is something that needs to be established, and I've been very successful by establishing culture through Microsoft Teams using techniques like or features like the FinOps teams, creating communities, and be constantly sending message to the practitioners and of all areas, sharing news, sharing new trainings and success stories. So what have you. It's important that everybody in the organization is aware that cost is really not only a metric but something that everybody should be talking about, because they are something. It is something that will definitely impact the requirements that we have on our products, and definitely at the end of the day will impact on the bottom line of your company. Azure Monitor Workbooks. Azure allows many workbooks that you can use, and there are many of them related just for cost. It's just simple as you go there, open it up, and we'll provide you information about cost that engineering teams can have that at their fingertips. And this should be something that should be part of the engineering team's day to day. I know that you guys have your you're monitoring the usage of CPU or maybe the memory, the performance. You're looking to the reliability, security metrics. You should have as well something on the side that shows you the cost. Azure updates cost every 4 hours within a day. In 72 hours, the costs are available. It's pretty stable, and the cost may change in the course of the last 30 days, but my experience is that doesn't change too much. So you can have a pretty good update of costs at your hand. Not as timely as I would like to, like the cost at a minute, but at least you can have the cost within the day or on the maximum the next day. You will check if the changes that you've done on the day will impact the other on the next day. Azure Advisor is your custom-made advisor for security, for reliability, performance, and cost as well. It will use artificial intelligence. We will take a look on all your setup and will provide you with suggestions of things that you could do to save more cost. Last but not least, Microsoft Azure Learning Path. I will put the link at the end of this presentation. One of that we have there that I like a lot is the FinOps review, which is a questionnaire that you go through with, and then it will give you as a final result the maturity of your organization. It will depend if you're doing the review for yourself or on behalf of your team or behalf of your organization. At the end, it will give you the maturity and the scores. And the good thing is that you can then take this assessment maybe 1 month later or 6 months later and see if you have increased the maturity of your of the same scope. The good thing is that if you keep up the same scope and you see how gradually your the evolution of your organization. So I've done that. I've gone through all the questions. Really cool, really complete. I really recommend you to do. So this was team need to collaborate and centralized team drives FinOps. Next slides will be a little bit faster because we will not need to go through every one of the services, all right? Decisions are driven by the business value of cloud. What it means, each operational team needs to access near real-time data to influence their spend and help them make data-driven decisions. Why it matters? Cloud financial decisions based on business value cannot be made in silos. They require and enforce collaboration and turn decisions from money spent to efficiency and value on that spend. Your return on investment for cloud usage is based on business metric. I will introduce here something that maybe is new for a couple of you if you're not too much into the FinOps area, that is the unit economics. Unit economics is how much you spend for units of business value. Example of business value could be revenue or number of users, number of new users. It will depend on the objective of your application. That's really the key. What is the objective of your application, of your area? So you are doing this investment because you're looking for a specific outcome. What outcome is that? Does that can be measured? Does that outcome depends on the application that you have? If it does, the higher the correlation between the cost and the output, better going to be this unit economics. And that's really what we need to do. We need to make a decision based on what's going to bring more value to the business and not what is cheaper. All right. Many people confuses FinOps with cost savings, but if you don't want, if you take that to the limit, you just turning off everything and you're gonna save millions. But that's not the case, right? You doing that investment because you're looking for a specific outcome. And maybe it makes sense to spend a little bit more if the outcome is what you were expecting. So we need to have the business value as at the heart of that, as the final objective of all of that. What are the solutions that help with that? Cost management, we talked about it. Power BI, we've talked about it. Well architecture review, that's something that we didn't talk about. Microsoft provide a well architecture framework, which I really recommend you to take a look at. It makes a good relationship between all of the aspects that I've talked about already: cost, reliability, security, and performance. You know, all of these things are come together. If you want more performance, probably we need to spend more. If you want something that's more reliable, maybe have that operating in multiple regions, they're gonna cost you. If you want something faster, performant, that's probably gonna have a cost as well, gonna have impact on security. So all of this should not be seen in isolations or in silos. They need to be looked together. And the well architecture framework review is something that helps you take a look at how well architecture is your solution. Azure saving offers, this is something that is really helpful. If you have either stable workloads or variables workloads, Azure have offers for that. For example, Azure Reserved Instance that can have allows you to have savings up to 70% on top of the list price, but that one requires from you a commitment that can be either 1 year or 2 years. You need to be very careful on that. And if it's stable, you can make portion of your workload into this, and you're gonna save tons. We have as well saving plans. It doesn't give you too much savings as that, but it's much more flexible. Um, the reservations you will need to commit to specific resources or to specific families, whereas in saving plans, it as long as it compute, it will apply to virtually all the type of computes. There are some exceptions, but virtually all of them. Azure Advisor, we talked about that, and Microsoft Azure, we also talked about that. Everyone takes ownership of their cloud usage. So why it matters? FinOps accountability of usage and cost must be pushed to the edge where the developers and engineers responsible for building cloud resources understand their responsibility in driving cloud value. So why it matters? Because who make the costs are the teams. All right, the teams are the ones responsible to make the cost because they are making the decisions that will then make the cost happen. We need to push the accountability to the teams. And maybe if you're an engineer, I know what you're thinking. Okay, one more thing. We are responsible to do DevOps, SecOps, yada yada ops, and now we have the FinOps. I know that it's a lot. That's a lot that's being asked from the engineering teams, but we also need to understand that the decisions that we are doing are creating costs. We cannot. We need to remember that we are now operating in a new model. On the past, 20 years ago, if you want to deploy one service or if you want to have a development environment up 24 by 7, it doesn't matter. The infrastructure is already there. But now on the environment that we are today, if you turn off your development environment when you leave the office and don't come back to the and turn it on again on the next day, sometimes it represents a savings of 60% on virtual machine costs. All right, so it makes sense to push that to the accountability to the team so that they become at least aware, okay, aware that costs exist and they are important. Solutions, cost management. Cost management will be our closest friend. It will be here, in everyone. Policies, Power BI, Azure Advisor, and Microsoft Azure Learning Paths are also important for making sure that everyone take ownership of their cloud usage. Talking about the Azure Learning, you don't need to learn it doesn't have just FinOps things in there. You have a host of things to learn from there, and knowledge in this space means money. The more you know, the more options you have on your utility belt, so to speak, to apply in things that will make your architecture better or make better decisions that will accomplish the same objective but spending less. Reports should be accessible and timely. What it means, cloud usage is advancing and changing so fast. It doesn't make sense to wait until the end of the month to report. I remember the old days on the project time where we were able to manage projects by just having the monthly cost report. Not anymore. Costs are so granular today. It's done in by minute, by hour, you know. So no way to survive with tools and reports that gives you numbers in the end of the month. For example, I worked in a client where they did a change in a certain setup, but they were not fully aware that that change made the cost spike. They were used to kind of, I don't know if I remember, 1,000 euros per day in that service. All of the sudden, on the next day, it went to 10,000. Okay. Okay, that 10,000 in that day was gone, but because we were looking to cost every day, we were able to identify that spike and go after the causes of that. The cause was easily identified, the configuration was corrected, and the next day the cost went down to the normal levels. Okay, you may say, okay, what about the 10,000? Okay, it's gone. But if we were not reviewing the cost in a daily basis, this number of 10,000 would repeat in day 1, day 2, day 3, and we would only realize the increase of cost in the day on the next month. We cannot accept that anymore, right? Because first, because data is available. Secondly, because this should be part of our day-to-day activities of monitoring cost. There are other situations as well where you have this cost spikes going on, but they are so the variation is small that maybe it goes unnoticed in a monthly report. But if a team is looking to their report in a daily fashion, they will rapidly identify and take actions to reduce that cost. What are the MS solutions that we have for that? Cost management, for sure. Azure usage and charges. Okay, this one is a new one. This is also part of the Microsoft Cost Management. It's also called Azure Analysis. It's a mean for you to also look to the cost in a more detailed fashion. Microsoft Power BI and Microsoft Azure Learning Paths. Okay, let's now talk to take advantage of the variable cost model of the cloud. What it means, cost variable or a variable cost model provides opportunity to lower operational costs and reducing waste capacity and the manpower needed to maintain system infrastructure. Remember my story, when we are installing a data center in that time, we used to over provision because although we have estimates, we never know how much we're gonna be using on the coming 6 months or year. So we have an over provisioned data center or machines. We were using that, and maybe that over provision portion will not be used for the next, I don't know, 1 year, 2 years. This is a waste, and we could solve that. When we go to the variable model, we just use what we need. This is the so-called pay-as-you-go model. You just pay for what you use. We need to be smart on that, because if we just pay for what we use, let's use all our intelligence and engineering in order to put together the solutions that just consume what we need when we need it for the purpose that we need it. You know, this sounds challenging, but this is really what it is, and that's what the variable cost model can provide to us. It's an advantage, but poor architecture, poor engineering practices can put that into a lose, in the sense that we could be spending much more than what is necessary. The use of cloud of consumption-based service like public cloud or SaaS offerings create the potential for organizations to achieve massive scalability global availability, and meet other critical use cases they might not even be able to build in a data center. So Microsoft Cost Management, Azure Saving Offers, that one that talk about reservation and saving plans, Azure Advisor, and Microsoft Azure Learning Paths. We're getting close to the end. I think that one of one of the messages I would like to bring here for my fellow architects and engineers, bring FinOps practitioner or the FinOps team to the table when you're architecting the solution. The reason for that is because now that you are architecting the solution itself needs to be thought through, obviously, but it should be inherent in this solution how the accountability will be made or exercised in this organization. So maybe you need to talk to your domain architect. They need to be aware of that and find ways to first, let's establish how accountability chain gonna happen on the organization. And secondly, let's try to use Azure capabilities to make this, let me call physical distribution so that accountability can be easily done. If you think from this from the beginning, I promise you that your FinOps report's going to be way more easier. Take advantage of things like management groups, things like subscription and resource groups. If you're smart on how you establish them, well, that's going to be easy peasy to do the reporting. There are certain techniques like making your split by business unit, by geolocalization, environment, all right? Application categories, we have a couple of here. You know, this here on the screen is just an example, but you imagine a bigger organization, this one can be huge. But if you think through this on the beginning, you know, and then you have the resource groups just with the for dedicated by application, it's going to be way more easier to determine the the cost responsibility. And this could be, you know, interference on how you architect your solution. Maybe you were thinking on put everything on just one resource group, but because you want one portion of this going to be responsibility of one team and the other going to be from the other team, so why not split this, you know, and have the communication between them done via any sort of interface, all right? So someone would say, okay, that would be a little bit more difficult to do, or maybe it could be a little bit more easier to do, I don't know. But regardless, you know that putting things in different resource groups or in different subscriptions or even in different management groups can represent changes on the way that you take through your solution. So that's why bringing the FinOps team to the table will help you make conversations like, okay, who is going to be responsible for that? How costs will be split among those teams? Who is responsible? Who's going to pay for that? Who is accountable? And this most likely gonna let you revise your architectural decisions and the solutions profile. Okay, so who does FinOps? Everybody. If FinOps is done right, probably the FinOps person will not need to be there, the FinOps team, because leadership, engineering, product teams, and finance and procurement will be all of them together working in harmony, having cost as something that they need to be looking at. I like this quote from Mike Fuller, the CTO from the FinOps Foundation. If I do my job properly, I mean the FinOps team, I do not need to be in the room when finance and DevOps teams meet. They are enabled by the work I have done to normalize the cloud view, allocate, and highlight key data points. When FinOps succeeds, the business is using the data of FinOps to make better decisions on its own. So this is it. This is the last slide. So thanks for having me. You can get in touch with me on my LinkedIn. You can have that on the screen. Just DM me and I will be more than glad to talk to you anything about FinOps. If you want to learn more, here's the site of FinOps Foundation. There is a plenty of documentation about FinOps framework there. You can also get to my blog, zephyr.globe.com/blog, where you can learn about my writings. I've been writing about FinOps for quite a long time, so hopefully you go there and find something useful for your FinOps journey. FinOps with Azure is a very nice material put together by Microsoft. Most of the things they use in this presentation come from this source, so go there and take a look. And last but not least, I really recommend you taking the FinOps review. It's on the assessment page in Microsoft. You go there, search for FinOps review, and you will see you will have the ability to run that for free. So this is it, everyone. Thanks so very much for having me here. Hopefully this was useful for everyone. And have fun with the rest of the conference. Talk to you hopefully soon.